Hey, this is Judah Mantel for SceneForge Studio, and in this video I'm going to go over version 0.7.5. It has a major overhaul to the way the Chromakey system works, and I'm really excited about it. So let's jump right in. So I have this scene here. It's just a foggy forest with a video surface over here. And we're going to go to the Properties menu and click Configure the video surface. Alright, so then we can click Configure to open up our video input menu. And you can see I already have footage here assigned to the surface of this girl with her hair blowing in the wind. But for this example, we're actually going to start from scratch and switch to a different video. So I'm going to select this one here. I think is a good demo of the system, precisely because it is actually not great footage. You can see we have some dark spots and some light spots, and this new system actually handles that really well. So from top to bottom, we're talking about the color key, not the difference matte. That's still being improved upon. From top to bottom, we have the editing view, which allows you to actually view the source footage at different points of the keying process. So you can see the final output with transparency, you can see the source, you can see the luma mask, the alpha matte, and then the despill mask. I'm going to go over those in a second. But basically, the process that this new system actually works by is that it starts by taking a luminance-based saturation map of the footage to essentially eliminate all those dark spots and imperfections and inconsistencies in the green screen. You can use this luma mask power slider to adjust the power with which it does this operation. In this case, 0 happens to be a perfect value for this, but in some cases you're going to want to adjust it, in most cases. And once we have that, we can select a color we like. So we can just use the eyedropper tool to grab this. Looks like a good middle ground. I'm going to make sure we're using an unlit material. So I'm going to try again. Then we can switch back to the final output. And once we have our color, we can begin experimenting with the minimum threshold and alpha strength. But it's actually sometimes easier to go directly to the alpha mask view. So now you can see exactly what's being removed, all the black areas, and what's being kept in all the white areas. That's what an alpha mask is. It's the lightness and darkness relative to what is transparent and not. And any values in between, such as shades of gray, will be transparent rather than just opaque or solid or transparent. So you can adjust the minimum threshold, and that is the minimum threshold of color that the system will accept as a valid target. This is pretty good. And then you have the alpha strength, which is essentially the sharpness of the overall mask. So when turned down to the lowest value of 10, you can see it's very soft, very kind of gray in the darker areas. But of course we want to increase this so it's all white and all opaque where we do want to keep the footage. You can see over here by his arm hairs, it might be good to have a little bit of transparency because that is what hair really does. So something like this is pretty good. And while it's in any of these view modes, you can still play back your footage to actually see what's happening here, and I think this looks pretty good. And then once we switch back to the final output, you can see we have a nice key here of our subject removed from the green screen in the background. There's still one thing that's a little off, and that is one that when paired with the actual transparency, you can see a little artifacting around the edges, which is not quite what we want. So it is useful to kind of readjust the keying after you're done with your alpha matte over here. But now that that's done, let's talk about spilling and green spill on our footage. It may be hard to see because of the scene lighting, but there is some green spill onto the lighter areas of his skin and the top of his guitar over here. That's a standard thing to happen with any green screen. You're going to get some of that light bounce. And the old version of the Despill algorithm was very basic. It kind of just subdued that green channel, and it worked, but it wasn't very flexible and wasn't very smart. Now, rather than just subduing the green channel, it'll actually generate a Despill mask that you can view here based on all the other properties that you have set. So now it'll say that, okay, the darker areas don't have any green in it, such as over here, but the lighter areas around his fingers and his arm definitely does have some green spill, and now we have to work with that. All of this stuff is directly impacted by what you set with the other two sliders, so just keep that in mind. So I'm going to fix that really quickly. All right. And what's cool about this new Despill system is that rather than just removing the green cast, it'll actually retroactively relight the footage based on the ambient light of the scene. So you can see that even though this material is unlit and not responding to lights in the scene, You can see the green spill over here. As I increase the despill, it'll replace that green cast with the cast of the actual scene light, as you can see here. So as I increase the time of day, you'll see the color of his skin, or of where those green casts are happening, really, changing to simulate the effect of him being in this actual environment with real lighting from the scene. So it's this really cool retroactively relighting that I think works so well and really helps with blending live action footage with CG backgrounds. And of course, if you were to use a lit material like this, now you have both the despill lighting and the actual lighting. And you can also choose whether or not you want to cast shadows, which is super cool as well. And so as I showed before, this system, because it does allow for actual transparency, rather than the old version which just cut off edges at a certain threshold, you can do some really interesting things with hair and other types of super transparent materials. So I'm going to switch back to my other footage here that I had at the beginning of this woman with the hair. And I'm going to really quickly adjust my Luma mask. Even though this is all pretty even, sometimes it is helpful to increase the value a little bit to further separate the background from the subject. Now I'm going to get a good color here. Switch to my alpha mask and try to dial in a good key here. So you can see here we have a really nice transparency around the edges of her hair. And if I turn off the actual video surface here and I switch to a overlay camera, now you can really see the transparency in action around the edges of her hair, which looks really great. And with that, that is basically everything new in this release. There is a lot more to come, specifically relating to compositing and Chromakey and difference matting and image keying coming soon, that I'm really excited about. In the next few iterations of this, you're going to be able to specify clean plates for proper image keying and other types of features like that. And so with that, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.